hearts. And these are all charities that I know of because of, the conversations that I've had. So I'm really looking forward to the theme for the conversation, though. And once again, I want to get this right because you worded this and playing in the sandbox together. And that is such a Dave Levac thing. And I'm going to read the subtitle here. All organizations, all levels of government working together always gets the best results. And I know that for a fact because I've had conversations with many politicians in this city, as you well know. And the theme in Brantford, for lack of a better term, has always been, regardless of party politics, regardless of levels of government, and this is part of that social enterprise, social business thing. It's not about those tiers. We need to get together and make it happen. And I know for you, your relationship with Phil McComan is deep and personal and a very long time. So that probably came naturally. When you were in power, for lack of a better term, you coincided with the mayor who you saw grow up into that role or whatnot. So there was a very tight bond developed in Brantford for about a decade, I think. But even in that decade, there was changes at the municipal level. There was blips and changes at the federal level, and you kind of saw it all. So before we get into very specific charities, I kind of gave the subtitle, verbalize it in the Dave Levac world.
It's everything I learned in kindergarten and have sometimes forgotten.
Yes.
So the idea is really simple. I can put any of my personal feelings, whether or not it's a political feeling, a party feeling, or partisan feeling. I have to be able to take that, set it aside, and say, what is the objective? Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you tend to be a little bit more open to somebody else's idea or somebody else's way of looking at things. It doesn't mean that you forego it. It just means that you can park it for a while and you know enough not to put that up. The old-fashioned things that the grandparents used to say is we don't talk about sex or politics. Mm-hmm. Everything else is on the table. It's almost truthful in so much as if you're specifically talking about politics, Phil and I could go toe-to-toe.
Oh, God, yeah.
But
you have.
If we have, yeah. But if we're talking about a project or something that was good for the community, we then have to fight sometimes our own parties or sometimes our own governments and say, wait a minute, we're all working on this one together. So playing in the sandbox together is something that if you actually watch kids do, they're pretty good at that naturally. The unnatural part about it is that when we keep telling people, you have to learn how to share. Share your toys. And so the natural component is I want that truck. I want that tractor. I want that shovel. And then some adult usually kind of snuck in there and said, no, share the shovel, share the truck, share the toys inside of the sandbox. And then all of a sudden, if you leave them alone, they're fine. Take that and translate that into what is a community but a giant sandbox?
Well, we're all sand.
We're many a giant things. Sandbox. Yeah. So let's go play in the sandbox together. So let's kind of duke out the ideas and then come to the same conclusion that it's going to make our community better if we get this done.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, regardless of the federal level, the municipal level, or the provincial level, you are operating in an ecosystem that is based on the citizens of your county, your region, whatever, electing you and giving you a job. Exactly. So that is by far one of the biggest difference between any other business out there. Like I've got clientele, I've got patrons, and the list goes on, but I'm not as accountable in the same way, nor have they the right to attack me the way they would attack you in some ways, right?
Because they hired you. But that
was our first mistake right there.
Well, here's the interesting point about that. Every 4 years,
yes,
whether or not I've done a great job or a poor job, I put it on the line because they're going to elect me. I've had people come up to me saying, it's not you, Dave. It's not you. It's so-and-so. And I said, well, I did my job. And no, it's not you. It's the other guy, or it's the premier, or it's the prime minister, or
it's this issue,
it's
or
this party, or it's this, or it's that. It's this issue. So you could get thrown out of office being one of the best MPPs that ever happened, and you get thrown out of office because every 4 years, that's the check.
Hey, there's a lot of people, and once again, I don't do politics. I can do politics. To your point, I could go toe-to-toe, right?
Sure.
But I don't. I choose not to. Had you run as an independent, you would have won.
I
think so. I think so. Not that would have been the outcome that any of us needed, because,
I know.
But back to the point of people voted Dave. And the very fact that you were the longest serving Speaker of the House, dealing with multiple parties and having the respect of all of those parties, translated to a degree as to why you were that person. You weren't viewed as a liberal or as a conservative or as an MDP.
You know what's interesting, though? What's really interesting to me is that my colleagues that I've gotten to know over the 20 years, a lot of them already think like that too. And the reality is that people put those labels on it,
Yeah.
and the behind the scenes crews of all of the parties do a lot of that stuff. I think people want politics to be done differently. I honestly do not believe, in my heart of hearts, I do not believe people want to be venomous.
No.
I don't believe
They can
people
be.
want to be cruel. Well, sure
Yeah,
they can be.
yeah.
And some of them are actually just following the lead.
Yeah.
If we
Or their
had,
patterns or...
if they're ahead of us,
Yeah.
the general public is ahead of most of the politicians, because most of them simply say, just get the job done.
Yeah.
Just do the job. Work together. Get the job done. So when people do that, more and more of us will be getting more and more attention. And the more attention we get, the more politics will change, and the more the backroom stuff will change, and the more the leadership will change. I'm optimistic that way. And whether or not I'm being silly when I'm being that optimistic, it's because Mr. and Mrs. out there, they need to kind of vocalize that.
Yeah.
They need to start pushing their members. If their members are just simply a party hack and they don't like it, they should tell them, look, you're a party hack. Just stay focused on your community here.
Yeah.
Let's get this done.
Well, and I think there's two aspects. One, there's the 4-year,
Yep.
call to arms.
Report card.
Your
Yeah.
report card. And to your point, whether or not you did well doesn't mean that you're the only player in the party.
Right.
And similarly, if you did poorly, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to lose your job.
And it's time for somebody else, maybe. That's the other part.
Well, that's the other thing too that I've noticed, and like I said, I'm fortunate. How do I want to say this without sounding egoistical? I have obviously interacted with multiple levels of government
Yep.
and multiple levels in this city. For someone that is not an elected official, for someone that has no power, for someone that really doesn't even care about being social anymore, that is a certain degree of networking and connection points that is unraveled in other cities. If you're just a general person, there's something to be said about coming to Brantford, or Brant specifically in this case, and if you're treating your elected officials like the people that they are, you've always been Dave to me.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Now I respect your position, whatnot, but you're Dave.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Chris has always been Chris to me. Phil has always been Phil to me. Will is Will. The list goes on, right? Because at the end of the day, and I think part of it goes back to that Thank Yvette thing, I've been fortunate enough to be part of a project and an overall committee that touches on not only all those levels of government, but also all of the firefighters, ambulance, like every the chiefs, the list goes on.
They're all
Like,
brought in.
oh my God, like it's scary to think the amount of connecting points that come when all those people come together for a cause. To your point, you may not be able to achieve the macro level of Queen's Park working together. But at the micro level on a very specific project, and we're going to talk about a few of them right now, I believe that you can, and I think we have very good examples
Yes.
that showcase that, because even Will, who has sat in that very chair and has had the same very cat, once again, party politics, right? You both share the same cat. You know what I mean? There's the part that connects, exactly, the connecting part. I had to put the cat away because Rick was allergic, though. In any case, the reason I bring that up is at the end of the day, all of these people are operating at the micro level on very specific projects. The one that you recently did last week literally down the street from where I live, where you literally had the two mayors, you had the MPP, you had the MP, you had the ex-MPP, the ex-Speaker of the House, and the list goes on for a major announcement.
Yes.
You know what I mean? To get those parties, those levels, those tiers, together in other cities, not as easy.
Yeah, you know what? People have said that to me around the province when I've traveled and when people are talking to me, and that is, they are a little bit jealous of the fact that when we do events, everybody shows up.
And you're all smiles, and you're all hugs, and you're genuinely hugging in those moments, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is a little bit of a unique circumstance. I would love for it to grow. I would love for it to kind of catch fire and start happening all over. And unfortunately, I I think this era of visceral politics, when I get
Oh, I
creepy,
know, I know.
I get creepy when I start talking about this, and then I can't understand why people have to do that. I really don't.
I think like many things, sometimes you need the valleys.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, sometimes you need the hills, sometimes you
yeah.
need the failures, sometimes you need the reminders,
Yeah, but it does
you
help
know.
because I'll tell you something. There tends to be a respect for any one of those people that says, I need you to come because I'm going to do something. Each one of that group, and the group expanded. It
Mhm.
by the way, it got larger and larger, and I think the more people that we stay connected, they'll come,
Mhm.
and if you show up, it seems to be the understanding that many hands make light work. Everybody's playing in the sandbox. You use the analogy you want, and it seems that everyone's kind of really catching this. I've seen organizations come together that I've never seen before when I was younger, and I was watching things happening. More and more organizations are working together and finding that more can be accomplished, because alone they couldn't quite get it over the top,
Mhm.
because they either didn't have the resources to do it or they didn't have the connections to do it. And more people are coming together. The best example I've seen without me involved, and watching how it happened, I watched how Chief Nelson,
Mhm.
of the chief of police,
Yep.
pulled together several agencies and said, you know what, doing the same thing year after year after year is not really taking a bite out of the statistics, and things are not improving. Let's take a look at doing something different. And when he pulled everybody together, it was almost like a miraculous epiphany.
Mhm.
Things kind of clicked and went, we kind of always thought about doing this, but somebody finally pulled it together. When they did it in a very short period of time, and I was peripheral, I
Mhm.
helped, contacted province and blah, blah, blah when I was MPP. And afterwards, I kept in touch. The stats are staggering.
Mhm.
The improvement on some of the things they've done, because of the way they're doing it now, in terms of calls from the
Yep.
police and mental health and responding to crime, it's really taken a bite out of it. And I can tell you that's what happens when you pull everybody together, because, oh, I can do that. Oh, I'll do that. I've got a little bit of funds. I can partially pay for this, and if I'll partially pay for that, it works.
Yeah.
It works.
Well, it's the concept of to a degree of crowdfunding in some
Yeah.
case, and crowdsourcing. All of these
Yeah,
things,
yeah.
are terms that
The
I use. The
collective.
collective, it's there. And to your point, I see it whenever we do the Thank Event lunch, and
Everybody pulls
oh my
together.
God, I don't know how that day's a blur. You know that as well as I
Yes.
do. But
Yes.
yet you look at it, and it gets done. And like when we do the 400 bags, it's like,
Everybody's got a job.
yeah.
Everybody gets their job done, and our meetings are just simply meetings that say, I got this done. Okay, your report, you go over the list of who's doing what. It's done. I've put in the call, or I've sent the letter. I need this communication, blah, blah, blah. And everybody just kind of, I got it, I got it, I got it. I got my job done. And it's a collective that
Yeah.
comes together and reports that we're ready to rock and roll. So when everybody kind of fine tunes this and then shows up on the day,
To do it.
the veterans, the spouses, the widows, the people that we're celebrating, it's almost like they just, you walk in and out. And at one time, as you know,
Yep.
it's shrinking. At one time, we were the largest in Canada. It was about 750 people were fed in less than a half an hour.
Yeah.
And everybody got their thing done, and everybody did it, and it was over. And then, almost like a deflation, we're ready for next year.
It's well, every single project, and I know you're part of a few local ones that are similar. The second that the event's over, you're starting to plan the next one. You know, the jazz festival being one that I know you're involved
Absolutely.
in.